Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do
Sent
it.
me of Jim saying something, and I'm like,
Hey,
from the panel, it's my favorite. Sorry.
welcome. We're already started off the show. We're at break, but hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John Nash. We have, as promised, joining us, author, journalist, TV and celebrity personality, pop culture pundit, lover of all things Batman and the Munsters, Mr. Frank DeCaro.
You know more about me than my husband does. Thank you.
Man of exceptional taste and talent.
Better than me holding it up, but congratulations on this book.
Thank you.
Drag. I went to Amazon today, #1.
Yeah.
On Amazon, and I'm sure at other places where all great books are sold.
It's been #1 in 3 categories so far: fashion history, fashion photography, fashion designers. No, I don't even know what the difference is, and lifestyle photography. See, we used to say it's not a lifestyle, it's a life, but apparently this book is a lifestyle.
And it just came out last week.
April 30th.
April 30th, right. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And of course we're going to...
Before you go further,
Go ahead.
in the bottom right corner of the cover of the book, there's a name that means a lot to me as a New Yorker, and that is the name Rizzoli. 57th Street. It's a fantastic. Was that their old? Are they still there?
Yeah, no, they're downtown now.
Oh.
They're on Lower Broadway now. They're Broadway above Union Square.
Back in the day when you could still have a storefront on 57th and not, spend an arm and a leg, Rizzoli was the store that you went to for incredible, great, rare books, coffee table books, fashion books, and I'm so happy that they partnered with you on this.
We had one in Philly, too. That,
Did you really?
That has since, like a lot of great bookstores, gone away.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So this is your 5th book.
I know.
And we'll talk to you about a bunch of things, but what we really wanted to try to figure out is how did this come about? Because I'm sure there's an interesting story behind how you... Yes, so please tell us.
So 5 years ago, an editor from Rizzoli, Rob Perlman, who's a wonderful author and very creative editor, took me out to lunch in Los Angeles, where we just had moved a year before that. And he said, someone needs to do a book on drag, and I think it should be you. And I was not convinced. I was like, well, no, I don't. Why should it be me? I'm not a.
Did you ask him right away, like, why should it be me?
Kind of, yeah. But then I thought about it. I was like, oh my God, I've been a drag hag since I was a toddler. And I was watching the Munsters in 1966, and Herman gets hit by a bolt of electricity and wakes up a cocktail waitress. And I've liked men in dresses ever since then, And I think this book is kind of an excuse to run that photograph. I found a wardrobe test of Fred Gwynne in drag on the Munsters, and it was we bought a collector's photo of that, and it's in the TV section.
So did they give you any rules, or was this just simply we think this category is this is a book we want to produce and we want to publish? Did they give you any rules, or was this your own? You can create.
No one has asked me that. I love that. No, they kind of were like, go make a thing. Which is why writing a book is so exciting, because it's a thing. There's Herman, isn't he? Look how cute!
It's on page like
we'll have to post that on Facebook.
Turn to
that picture.
page 102 in your books, children. And yeah, I know. Can you show it, or can you? I mean, do it like a Carol. Look at him. He's so cute.
Probably get a close up there.
Look. He's Aunt Herman.
Oh my gosh.
The gist of this chapter is how the whole trope in television in the 20th century was take the ugliest, hairiest man and put him in a dress and a straight guy will fall for him. That was always kind of the way it would go. So, no, they kind of said, go make a book. And then you kind of have to figure out, well, what am I going to say?
So, but on the question of no rules, so the parameters were what your structure for what you felt drag was going to be and how you were going to talk about it. But there had to be a point where someone said, okay, we need X number of words.
Well, they did, and then I wrote a lot more.
So they say it needs to be, did they give you a page to say it's not going to be 500 pages, but it could be 300 or it could be 100 or...
Well, I think we contracted for like 40,000 words, and I turned in 85,000 words.
Wow. Oh, my God.
And then they said, my editor said, I can't even look at this length. So I was like, give me a pen. And by 2 days later, it was 60-something. I said, now edit it. And so it ended up coming in closer to 60,000 words.
Wow.
But I was, you get nervous when you're doing a project this big, and it was really 5 years worth of work, from beginning to publication, but I worked mostly for 3 years on it. You get nervous because you're like, what am I trying to say? And I had a friend who's quoted, Dennis Dermody, who is quoted in the book. He's a wonderful
Dennis used to
critic.
call into your show.
No, the best.
Favorite on
Our
you.
cinemaniac.
Yep.
That's
So anyway,
right.
he said to me, write the drag book you want to write and write about those people who you think are important and put your own spin on it because you can't do everybody. And I still fit a lot of people, and there are a lot of drag queens in this book. And drag to me is a very broad thing. I mean, I include cross-dressing. You can be Milton Berle dressed as Cleopatra in 1948, or you can be Bianca Del Rio in 2019. It's all a man in a dress or a woman in a chest wig, and I like them both, And there's only a little bit of drag king because I thought there's so much drag queen stuff to cover that and I think, and it's showbiz drag too. It's not really pageant drag. It's not,
How long did it take you to develop your structure? And I guess my reason for asking that was it once you had the structure of the buckets you wanted to put things in, and you wanted to talk TV, film, drag and culture, once you had your main structure, your framework, was it easier to write, or was it?
Well, I think you have to do that with a book. I mean, maybe a novel is different, but if you're doing nonfiction, I always tell people it's like losing weight. You can't say, I'm going to lose 100 pounds. You have to say, I'm going to lose 5 pounds 20 times. So you do with your, it's really, because it's too daunting to lose 100 pounds, even though I did. Okay. So but you really, you have to do it in little drips and drabs. And so I would say, I came up with the chapters, and there was going to be a whole Australian chapter, and and I was like, no, I can fit. I was like, Dame Edna can go over here, and Courtney Act can go over there.
Where does Dame Edna actually reside in its drag?
Yeah, oh my God, I think she's she's one of the greatest female impersonators ever, who created this character out of whole cloth. I wish she would stop being so transphobic so loudly.
That's where I guess that's where I was getting at.
It would really be nice if she were not ruining her legacy by saying stupid crap, but people are like, well, why would you include her? It's like, because she's really important. And sometimes people you adore, and was one of the smartest people I've ever met or interviewed. And I interviewed him.
Yeah.
I interviewed her, and I interviewed him again, over a long period of time.
Him in character.
It was her,
Dame Edna.
For lunch one day, and she said, "Would you like some lunch?" Oh, it looks like you've already had lunch. She read me for being fat, and then the next morning I had breakfast with him, and then I don't know, 15 years later or 20 years, but I was on Sirius, and he came to visit us in the LA studio, and I said, I don't know if you know this, but I'm the guy who wrote the New York Times profile of you when the show was opening in '99 with the giant Hirschfeld. And I said, I'm only mentioning this because I want to know, did you get that Hirschfeld? And he said, yes, I did. And the next day, a forest of Casablanca lilies was delivered to me. A forest. You could smell, it was insane. You could, if we put it here, we couldn't see the glass window over there.
Frank, was it really 99 that he was here on Broadway?
That's the first one, yeah.
I think I might. Was the second one the time because it was always it's the flower the tiger, what is it, the
no, he's a
gladiolas?
Gladiola,
because that's he would do the way of the gladiolas. So how many times did he appear on Broadway then?
3. The third one didn't work so well.
I must have seen the second one because
the one with Michael Feinstein didn't work very well.
I didn't see that. No.
You didn't miss anything, and I like them both. No, they're great separate. They just didn't work. It didn't work together.
You mentioned and with Dame Edna and some of what's going on with RuPaul's Drag Race now. I was wondering, your books are always so well researched, and you do a good job of giving us backstory. And for me, so much of drag was about where you might have lived in a city, and people might not have known those performers. I lived in Portland, Oregon, for instance, for a while, and there were great drag performers that were just known in Portland that are legends in those areas. And I wondered, as you did this book, did you find, is there friction between the old guard and the new guard that may be more popular due to social media or due to things like RuPaul's Drag Race?
The one downside that several drag queens mentioned to the mainstreaming of drag and the huge success, the huge mainstream success of RuPaul's Drag Race, was that they find that some audiences, if you have not appeared on Drag Race, you're of no interest to them. That was the one complaint.
So you were nothing.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's kind of weird, right?
That it was as if if you're too old to have been on Drag Race, it's as if you're not good enough to have been on Drag Race. And so they have to compete with that a little bit. But it was interesting. The oldest still working drag queen I just met from Portland, Darcelle 15, who's profiled in the
That's
book.
who we used to go
What's her name
see.
again?
Yeah,
Darcelle.
Darcelle 15 after Denise Darcelle, the French actress.
We would go there. We would go to Happy Hour. We'd go there. We saw her show every Saturday, and then we would go out and go on our way. But it was the thing to do on Saturdays.
But he's 80-something. He said to me, if someone's complaining that Drag Race is ruining their career, they must not have been very good to begin with. That's how you get to be 87 and still putting the pumps on, you know? Because you just have to be like, don't blame other people for whatever's good or bad in your life. Do your thing and people will find you. So yeah, he was a big inspiration. And he was funny because I said to him, okay, 10 months before you were named the Guinness World Record holder for the oldest still working drag queen, a Canadian drag queen was named this. And then 10 months later, you stole the title away from her. And he just said, boy, was she pissed. And I was like, you want someone 80-something, you know.
What I loved about her is she was great about showcasing new talent and bringing new people up. And it was just a great time in my life, but I was glad to see that she made your book.
So
I dedicated the book to my first drag queen, who was a performer named Mimi. I know nothing about her, except that she used to perform at Charlie's West in East Orange, New Jersey. And she would dress.
Charlie's West.
Yes, there you
I haven't
go.
even thought of that. Have
you been there,
Oh my
John?
God. Well, Charlie's had a bunch of Anyway.
But she would wear a sequined outfit that looked like the Italian flag, and then she would
Of course.
she would lip sync to Connie Francis, and she'd do Where the Boys Are, and when she got I Wait Impatiently, she would make the international symbol for jerking off. And so I was like, what a great signature. It's like, you know, some people, RuPaul says, can I get an amen to that? Or
Yeah, there's a little
Sissy that walk.
catch line.
And for her, she jerked off to Connie Francis. So good for her. So she's got everyone should have it. So, but I thought it was best to dedicate it to my first drag queen.
So, what was the longest span of time that you were devoting? Like, you were very busy. You know, you've been performing, you've been traveling. But when was some of these big chunks of time put in for the book? Would you just sit down? Maybe you're in LA, maybe you're here. Like, I got to do 5 days, or did it happen naturally, or did you have to schedule your time?
I am the worst person when it comes to being structured. I sit and wait for the muse to strike, which is not. That is a bad idea if someone is going to be writing
yeah, but
a book.
I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah, but no, I am. I'll think and think and think. And the worst thing that ever happened was just to learn I saw a guy when I was working at a newspaper job 25 years ago, longer, 30 years ago, and hanging up over his desk, it said, "Just because I'm not typing doesn't mean I'm not writing." It was the worst thing I could have ever been told, because it's like that kept me. Because you really should just sit at the computer and write something, you know. But it was, you know, I was like, think, but I still write that way. I've been writing for the Styles of the New York Times again lately, and it's like I think and think and think and think and then just write the whole thing. And you kind of can't do that with a book, but with each piece of the book, it would be a lot of think, and then figure it out and then just do it.
But and I hope you appreciate that you're smart.
Yeah, there's that.
No, but because
I convinced people for 12 years on the
but you know
radio
what I
that I
mean?
wasn't, but yeah.
No, but you can't just, that's a talent. And I think some people just think, oh, it's like somebody said I mentioned earlier David McCullough, who wrote the book, and he said he often gets surgeons or whatever come up to him and says, oh, I've got a book. You know, I've got a book in me or something. And then he's like, he said, I've started, my response has been, you know, I thought of taking out an appendix one day.
It's true.
And it was like.
But it is one of those skills that people assume anyone can do. They think anyone can do a podcast, anyone can write, anyone can act. And actually, I take it back. They didn't do anyone can act. I was like, you know what? If you can call yourself a journalist and you didn't study for that, I'm an actor. So it's like, and I've done some stuff. I mean, I did a little movie that's going to come out. I have one little scene, but it's with Marley Matlin.
Well, you know how many times, and I'm sure your show, because you're on every day, when back in the old days on satellite. But we would often have guests that would come in that were all full of piss and vinegar, and then they died on the mic.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure you've had the same thing. And then we'd go to break and be, I should have my own show. Really?
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Well, no,
You
it's
have to
hard
talk.
to do. Stuff is hard to do. Unfortunately, we're in a culture now where everyone thinks they can do anything.
Yeah.
And everyone's told that you're perfect just
Hey,
as
look,
you are.
look.
It's like, no, you're not.
5 years in the making.
Yeah.
That's not 5 minutes. 5 years is a long time, and it's a good amount of time. When you were working with your editor, Were you happy with all, like, did the selection of photography and illustration that was presented to you? Like, did you say?
No, I picked the photos.
You did?
Yeah, no, I photo edited the book with them, but I did photo edit the book and did all the photo
So you
research.
did your R&D on your photo research.
You have to do all that. You kind of
Wow.
have to do everything, and then you have to work very closely with the publishers. You have to do everything on everything.
So
you
if you
have to write it, you have to edit it, you have to proofread it, you have to do, and you get help, but you have to take the initiative
Or
on
it doesn't
every
move.
level. You have to try and get your own press. You have to, and you work with people.
Right.
But unless you are, if you're Lena Dunham, and God bless her, Lena Dunham's experience writing a book is vastly different than most of us.
Right.
Okay. I did not get $6 million for this book. I got money you could find.
5.5.
I got money you could find in a couch cushion underneath, that fell out of your pocket.
got a quarter.
A quarter, and that's the way it goes. But you can't even complain about it. And you have to set up your own things. You have to call every friend you ever made in the world and say, "Could I come and do your show?" And they say yes, thank heaven, and you go and do it. But you have to sort of do the most of the work. But that's good advice for any.
So even on the photography side, if you found a photograph that you wanted to use in the book, would they at least be the people that would clear it for legal stuff?
Yeah, you
Okay.
got that. No, they'd help you. No, that's what I mean. You got a lot of help, but you have to take the initiative.
Take the initiative, yeah.
And it's good advice for anything to do. And it's like losing. I tell you, it's like losing weight. Everything to me is like losing weight. You have to do it. You either have to do it yourself or not
And
do
you
it.
defined it in a really great way, micro goals.
Yeah, you have to.
Like, here's the 20. Here's the
Yeah.
5. Here's a 5.
I had a friend that ran a marathon like that. He had never run a marathon. He said the best way for him, I said, I can't imagine running 26 miles. He said, you have to make a deal with your mind. And he said, and we were running, and he said, see that telephone pole? Tell yourself you're going to get to that pole. Which was only maybe 600 yards away. And he goes, then when you get there, pick another landmark and say, I'm going to get to that tree, or I'm going to get to that bench. And he said, and eventually the time goes by. He said, but if you say, I'm going to go run 26 miles, it's daunting.
Well, that's how you're defeated. And when I was studying animation, I did an animation thing for 2 years to learn character animation. Everything is incremental.
Oh, with that especially.
Yeah.
Remember the old days where you'd move it a fraction of an inch?
That's it. Yeah, it's like stop motion, and it's all reversed engineer. You know what the dialogue is, you know what the story is, but then you get down to the craftsmanship thing. But I admire this so much, and we were flipping through it. No one's, in my opinion, my favorites are all in here, and you even included one of our all-time favorites, Aunt Barbara.
I know. And see, Aunt Barbara is fantastic because she's a trans performer who's also a drag queen.
Right.
You see, that's the future. It's sort of that you don't have to be a man who shaves everything and goes and puts on heels and a gown. You can be 11-year-old kid who's a drag kid. That's a thing now. You can be a trans woman. You can be anything you want to be, as long as you're entertaining when that curtain goes up. That's really the thing.
I think my first New York introduction to drag might have been Wigstock.
Oh, it was the best.
And Lady Bunny came out on stage, and they were bringing out the drag queens. And my favorite name of all time is Lady Bunny introduced Miss Satellite Dish. I mean, someone sat and thought of the name.
My favorite, just for the smarts, and I was funny. I was reading you had mentioned it was your favorite drag queen, Dina Martino.
Oh, Dina's my
Oh, my
favorite.
God.
And
The other drag queens are going to be mad at me. I say it in every interview.
but
that
she
Dina's
used to
my
be on your
favorite.
show quite a bit, and I remember one time sitting in the car and I tuned in and I hadn't heard her being introduced, and the interview was hilarious, and I loved every second of it. And then I had to figure out when you were going to repeat your show, which on Sirius was every 3 minutes. So I'm like, okay,
for like 12 hours a day.
I feel like I've got to watch, I've got to listen again and find out who this is. But she's tough to find. Like if you Google her, there's not an awful lot that comes up.
She just uploaded. Is that the word the kids use? She just put on YouTube a bunch of her videos.
Oh,
she
great.
never would have them out
No.
there. And I think now she's realizing that it benefits her to be more exposed.
More visible.
And she is about as funny as
Hilarious.
it gets. But you have to, and you can't explain her. It
You
doesn't
have
make
to
any
follow.
sense.
You have to
Just-
follow
just
along.
go see it. It's
When she was talking and mispronouncing words. I mean, it was just.
yeah, she does like a hard G where it should be soft and vice versa.
You bring up Frank's career on Satellite, and I thought you were going to say something I've done twice when I've had you on in the car. where you start going down and you're telling a story, you're interviewing somebody, and I start laughing so hard I can't drive, and I have to pull off to the side of the road and sit there for a minute, and then it crests, and you're like, okay, I can drive again.
Oh, killing people since 2004.
But do you miss it?
No.
I gotta say, your fans miss you.
No, they're so nice. I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to be anywhere 5 days a week for 3 hours. I just don't want
Well,
to.
remember, what did we learn from Frank?
You got to keep the funnel, Phil.
You got to keep the beast moving. You gotta,
Oh yeah. Oh, it's the whole. By the end of the day, it's all empty again. It's like, oh great, now I got to fill it up again tomorrow.
guests and ideas.
I just used that line on somebody we know is starting a podcast, and I said, I'm going to give you advice that somebody had told us, a guy named Frank DeCaro, you'll find out real quick that you got to keep that
feed
funnel
the beast.
Fill that thing.
You were traveling with Lisa Lampanelli for
4 years.
Was it 4 years?
4.
So she's now gone and she's doing more self-help and.
Yeah, she's reinvented herself.
Are you still partnered with her? Do you?
No, I just stepped back about a month ago, because I said to her, I said, it's time for baby bird to leave the nest. That woman, I am so grateful to. She's the reason I could see my feet. She is the reason I can stand on a stage with a microphone. I can be handed a microphone and go and talk.
You said it was like an intervention.
Oh my God, it really was an intervention. She really did. She called me to her house, and you could hear the bolts lock like a women's prison movie. And she's friggin' Ida Lupino in this movie. She's a prison warden, And she told me I had to either lose weight on my own or I had to go meet her bariatric surgeon.
Wow.
And she said, you're going to die, and you haven't been listening to your cardiologist, who said that, but I didn't. Who listens to their cardiologist? Right. You listen to your insult comic. Why would you listen to your cardiologist?
You listen to an insult comic
That's
before your cardiologist, right?
So I did. And I lost 105 pounds, and then I did what some people do. I gained 20 some of it back, and now I've gained about 12 of it back. So I'm down about 12. But it's a constant struggle. Yeah. And so anybody, they're out there, you got it. It's going to be the rest of your life, and you just have to. You're going to be like, what's recovering alcoholic? That's the expression. You're going to be a recovering foodaholic the rest of your life. It is not. I'm going to behave until September, and then I'll be fine. I'll go back to no. You have to be responsible for what you're shoving in your fat mouth every time you walk into the refrigerator, and it is a constant struggle. But I'm going to win.
I will say, and I'll ask you this, not just say it, but. You went from OutQ pretty quickly to being on the road with Lisa.
Yeah, thank heaven for that. My whole career I've been lucky like that.
But that's what I wanted to know is the step off from one into this other cool world, and you're traveling the country, you're opening up. How many months into that was it before you're like, hey, I'm not doing the daytime thing anymore, or was it minutes?
Honestly, the first... I had been a freelancer for a long time before Sirius, so I was very used to my time as my
gigs,
own. So I love it. With Sirius it was daily, and that was very hard for me. And so when I was suddenly doing this with Lisa, I was bummed when they got rid of the whole channel. I was very, very sad. However, my first day of unemployment, I was at 11 o'clock in my own tuxedo in the back of a limousine on the way to the Grammys as Lisa's date. So if that's your first day of unemployment, it's not that bad. So you do think I could go do this. So I did. She didn't win. It'd been nice if she won, but I told her, I don't know who won. It might have been Louis C.K., but I said maybe I should have been his date. What the hell do I know? I'd have gone home with the trophy. I'd have held it for you.
Now, are you still liking Los Angeles?
I love Los Angeles.
I always wanted. We've always said we'd like to have lived in California.
If of all the cities in the state, I prefer L.A.
I like it because it's so fake. I love everything. Everything everybody complains about is the best thing about it. It's like people. I knew things were different though. We went to this party. We went to a doggy birthday party in this very ritzy titsy woman's penthouse. There was not
if
one.
The dogs are in costume.
No,
right?
penthouse in L.A. is 6 stories.
Yeah. Even the dogs didn't have their original faces. Okay, it was like everyone had been worked on except my husband Jim Colucci and I. So we're. So hold the camera up, thank you. So you look like you have one chin. So, but anyway, and I thought to myself, it didn't strike me as odd anymore. I was like, we've lived here a while now, because it used to freak me out when I'd walk in. Now I just look around and it's like, look,
are you guys
look how refreshed you look.
Are you in the same place?
No, we have a cute apartment now. Yes, it depends on when I was here last. We were in a guest house for a while.
When you first moved out to L.A., I don't believe you had a kitchen.
No, I didn't. And it drove me crazy. I had a cookbook and no kitchen.
Yeah. Dead celebrity.
Dead celebrity cookbook and no kitchen. So my kitchen was dead. No, I was living in a guest house, which is kind of when you land in LA, that's it's often a first step. And then we got an apartment. I had my first grown-up apartment. No, it's okay. Because New York City apartments.
Yeah.
Okay, I had the 4 burners, and they were this wide. Okay, there was like you could do
It was like a chef's stove.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Now I've got my 6 burners. I've got my first dishwasher ever.
No!
Ever.
I am not hearing this. You got to be kidding me.
I've never had a dishwasher before.
In New York City, you have to have 2 appliances. One of them is a dishwasher. The other is an air conditioner.
Yeah, I never. So this is my first apartment with central air. My first dishwasher ever.
Wow.
A regular size refrigerator, a chef stove, my own full size washer and dryer in the apartment.
Oh no, that's heaven.
Great.
This is living. My father had not given me that Susie Homemaker washer when I was 5 years old. Okay, it's like thank God I was like give the Nelly Queen something he wants. You give your kids what they want because they'll do laundry for the rest of their lives. No, I don't let Jim touch. It's like I said, you can use.
I'm the laundry guy in our house.
Are you?
Oh, it's terrible.
Richard does the laundry for.
Jim can use the washer dryer when I'm not in the apartment. When I'm away, he can use any appliance he wants. I don't care. If I'm there...
There should be like police tape over the appliance.
It's a yellow thing. You can't do that.
He's probably okay with that. So you're going to be on Watch What Happens Live. You're going to be the bartender this coming Monday?
I'm going to bartend on Monday, which I'm so excited about.
This coming Monday?
Yes. Okay. I can say the guests. Now, they announced it. It's RuPaul and Angelica Houston.
Oh my God. Wow. Are you going to have this on the bar?
They're going to, yes.
This should be on the bar.
This should be on the bar.
And I'm going to make Wigronis, which are good. No, it's gin, Campari, and vermouth with a splash of wig water. So it's good. Great. So it's going to be out. So it'll be good.
And then you're going to be doing, is it DragCon?
So DragCon at the end of the month over Memorial Day weekend, and we're doing a panel.
Where's that?
In LA at the convention center.
Okay.
And there is one in the fall. Maybe they'll have me back in the fall here in New York. But it's the panel based on the book is me, Miss Coco Peru, Leslie Jordan, Drew Droege, James St. James. That's everybody.
Leslie Jordan?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
We're going to talk about drag on
ball.
sitcoms and sort of when did you first notice a drag queen on TV. And we're going to talk about that. That's going to be the...
Was Leslie Jordan in the movie Sordid Lives?
He is. He's the world's greatest Tammy Wynette impersonator.
He walks out. Can you smell my...
I'm trying to think. The very first time I remember drag might have been either Bugs Bunny or Barney Rubble.
They're wonderful in drag.
You're talking about as a kid.
Because I can remember as a kid
Saturday
watching
morning
it, I think it was fun. I think Fred and Barney dressed up like
to win the taste. What is it? Tasty pastry contest. Yes.
And then Bugs Bunny, any opportunity to get in drag, he did.
We are such a product, all of us.
No, I know.
TV.
One of the best reviews I got, they said, from Bugs Bunny to Lady Bunny, this is a must-have. And it's like, good.
That is a great review.
Well, I wrote that too, and John and I both said it's a coffee table book. And if you don't have this, listeners, if you don't have this on your coffee table this summer at your beach house or your country house or your house, do people still have coffee tables?
Yes, they do. Yes. And I'm going to tell you something about this book. I brought it home. And it was sitting on the counter. Bob and I got an apartment in Washington Heights.
Nice.
So it's kind of LA.
Yeah. Almost. It's almost
further west.
Almost Connecticut.
It's above
it's kind
the bridge.
Of far. Yeah.
And the greatest thing to me is I leave the room, I come back, and he's sitting. He made himself a gin and tonic. He's sitting, and he's dutifully flipping through. He goes, "Oh my God, where'd you get this?" I says, "It's Frank DeCaro." He goes, "Frank DeCaro," and we were laughing. There's such great stuff in here. If you've lived in New York, if you've lived in LA, if you've been to P-Town, if you've been in Chicago, any of the cities where you've experienced this, right?
Well, I think it's hilarious. 1950s, early 60s, drag show pulls into Fort Worth, Texas, and they're like, no, 28 days. Okay? It's like, people have always liked drag.
Yeah,
okay?
True.
They always have, and they weren't. You couldn't be a gay. You had to be quiet. You had to be discreet. All that stuff. But it's like audiences have always liked drag shows, and thank God they continue to do so. Thank God I was a year late with this book too, because it's the right time.
Just to wrap up, I would say this has been a part of all our coming out experiences. Not just going to a gay bar, but the first time you go to see an actual performance. And I love drag because I laugh. The best drag queens are making fun jokes. They're having a ball.
They also were leading the movement too for
gay,
for particularly the LGBT community. There was a guy that I just knew as an acquaintance in Philly, and he was about our age. And he was very out and proud. He was a local drag queen. And I remember sending him a note recently and telling him how watching him and the way he behaved in the 80s for somebody that was not comfortable with who they were, and seeing him and how he's grown to where he is now. And he sent me back the most lovely note about God. He goes, perfect timing for you to send that. He goes, I really needed that today. But he said sometimes you don't know that anything you do is going to have an impact for somebody. Yeah. And I think drag queens were way in.
Well, I think Frank DeCaro's had an outsized impact on all our lives, which I am.
Definitely plus size for a long time.
I am so happy to be sitting next to you. And I want to remind everybody, the book is called Drag, Combing Through the Big Wigs of Show Business by none other than Frank DeCaro.
Amazon me, baby.
Did you come up with the title, Combing Through the...
Yeah, it was going to be called Big Wigs, Combing Through the History of Drag in Show Business. And they're like, no, it has to be drag combing through the big... I was like, well, then let's call it that. So
congratulations.
But every book on drag is called Drag. The only which is hilarious to me, that's the only title you're allowed to have. However, I don't know if it's just on my search, but if you put in drag right now, you get RuPaul's Drag Race and me.
So, ooh, I like that. I like that. I like that. Talk about...
Are you writing any other books before we go?
I'm trying to figure out what's next. I don't know, but we're just going to sell this one for a while. But I'm working with a production company to turn this into a 10-part documentary series. But we don't know if it'll happen.
No, but what a great idea.
But that's the goal.
What a great idea.
Yeah,
well,
knock on
Frank.
laminate.
I can't thank you enough for joining us. Check Frank out this coming Monday. We'll be on Watch What Happens.
I know.
We'll be bartending. This is going to be standing in the background. Please pick up your copy. I know we don't do that often, but you're going to love the book. And if you love Frank, you're going to love it even doubly more. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks to Deep Discount. Thank you, Garrett, Steve. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Frank, again.
It's on deep discount at Amazon right now. It's $18.
Is it?
Yes.
That's a different kind of discount. All right, Tim, what do we say?
Don't text and drive. Arrive alive.
Well, that's very good. See, if he's cued, Garrett, there you go. We'll see you next week, folks.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.